Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. I'm Tim Andersen, the appraiser's advocate. But more importantly, as you can see on the screen, we've got Mr. Jeff Bradford from Bradford Technologies. Now, we're going to cover a lot more than just Bradford stuff. We're going to cover some of the contemporary questions that are going on in real estate appraisal today. And we've asked Jeff to be here today to give us his very specific, very pointed, and very well thought out responses to these questions. So, Jeff, thank you. Appreciate you being here today. Thank you very kindly. It's good to see you again.
Good to be here, Tim. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, sure. It's an honor. Um, uh, 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 Jeff, take a couple of minutes and tell us about you and what's going on with Bradford Technologies, and then we're going to get into some of these questions. So go ahead, toot your own horn for a couple of minutes.
Okay. So as Tim said, my name is Jeff Bradford. I'm the CEO at Bradford Technologies, and we have been serving appraisers for 39 years now. We started by offering an Apple product. By the way, Apple just had their 50th birthday, and so we congratulate them on that. But we started with a product called Mac Appraiser. And then that went to another product called the Appraiser's Toolbox. And then we have ClickForms, we had CompCruncher, we had Redstone, and now we have a new product called Nighthawk. And so you can see that we're not afraid to cannibalize our products to build something new and to build something better. And so we hope that this new product, Nighthawk, which is built for UAD 3.6 and it's web-based, will carry us into the future. So we're looking forward to that. We hope to be verified very soon by the GSEs and then open it up to production. So um, we're, uh, we're grinding away, as they say, but we're looking forward to the future. I think it's going to be, I think the future for appraisers is actually going to be pretty exciting. And I think it's going to be fun. There's just a lot of good things that we can do with the new technology. So anyway, we've been in business for 39 years. We're looking forward to a lot more years. I think it's going to be an exciting time for the industry in general.
Jeff, thank you. Okay, 39 years. That's impressive. Let's, okay, let's get into what is going on concurrently. And I wish I could speak English. Let's get on with what is happening now in appraisal world. Okay, now, before we went on the air, you were talking to me about a Zoom call you were recently on. And give us a synopsis of that phone call, if you would please, and explain to us why, even though that phone call did not, that Zoom call did not go to every appraiser in the United States, but why it is probably important to every appraiser in the United States, especially for those who want to deal with UAD 3.6.
So this was a CRN meeting where Susie Gardner, who used to be with FDIC, was talking about her predictions for the future and recommendations. And one of her predictions was that, excuse me, that there's going to be a shortage of appraisers. But the other recommendation, or the recommendation side of what she was offering was to the lenders. And that is to not be so picky with appraisals. Um, just focus on the things that matter, not the things that don't matter. And she said, appraisers, because there's going to be a shortage in her view, should be used on the things that are most important. And so for loans that maybe don't matter or an alternative could be used, she was advocating that be the case. So it was a different world that she was picturing or painting. And it's made me think a lot about, is that going to be true or not? And what can we do as a technology provider to maybe influence that painting of the future? And so, is there going to be a shortage? Maybe. In our surveys, 8% of the appraisers don't want to continue with UAD 3.6. And that's a reasonable number. Um, the others do. And the question is it going to take them longer to do a 3.6 appraisal than it does today? And I think this is where technology has to come into the picture and make that whole process shorter while either maintaining or improving quality. And if the technology providers can do that, I don't think you'll see a shortage of appraisers. And you might even see an influx of people coming in, because if they don't have to do the drudgery work of filling out forms and doing all the busybody work, but just focusing on, inspecting the home, valuing the home, solving that valuation problem, the things that appraisers are really passionate about, they can focus on those things. I think you'll see an influx of appraisers or influx of people who like those kinds of problems. And so in my book, a lot depends on technology. If technology can come through and eliminate those busybody uh, tasks, uh, it could be a very different world for appraisers.
Jeff, one quick question. You mentioned a percentage of appraisers who did not want to do UAD work, at least that is their feeling right now. Was that 8% or 80%?
Oh, sorry, 8%.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to another question. You talked about the busy work factor. Now, tell us how technology, Bradford technology or Fred's technology, whoever, is going to help the appraiser spend less time in busy work, because this appears to be what is upsetting appraisers so much. They're saying, it already takes me X number of hours to do an appraisal. How can I make more money if fees are going to go down and I'm expected to provide the GSEs with even more information, such as the what the front door, the elevation of the front door is above sea
Right.
level or flood level or whatever it is.
Right.
So, tell us how is technology going to reduce or let's dream big, eliminate the busy work?
So, so Tim, when the GSEs introduced the dynamic reporting concept, they had to also dictate how that report was going to be built. And so it went from the static report 1004 to this dynamic one that had all these instructions. And it says, when you have this data point, do this. When you have that data point, do that other thing. And so we were able to build a report generator based on the data that is collected. And so in our software, in our technology, that appraisal report is built for the appraiser in about 40 seconds. And so those hours that appraiser would spend generating a 1004 report are gone. That appraiser is not going to spend those kind of hours doing that anymore. When it comes to importing MLS into a spreadsheet and then doing some analysis and coming up with something, and maybe they spend 30 minutes, maybe they spend an hour, that's gone. We do that for them because we'll import about 250 sales and listings of that market for them. We'll slice and dice it and give them a quick overview and then let them do a little bit more if they want. But very quickly, they get to first base. and they're not worrying about importing data, for instance. Other things like the sales contract, for instance, um, that only takes a few minutes to review it, right, and extract the pertinent information out of it. But let's say that it takes 10 or 15 minutes. Well, with artificial intelligence, we can review that contract, extract out the pertinent information, and hand it to the appraiser in a matter of 5 seconds. And so every step of the way, we're saving the appraiser 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, 10 over here, whatever, whatever. When you get to the end, 40 seconds produces a report instead of 2 hours. And so we've made the whole process um, to where the appraiser focuses on the methodology of doing the appraisal and coming up with a valuation and not the presentation of the product, but they focus on the meat, right? Remember that commercial, "Where's the beef" by Wendy's? I
You're
mean,
you're
we're
you're
we're
dating you're
allowing
dating yourself, Brad, or Jeff. You're dating yourself.
we we're allowing the appraiser to get into the heart of the process and not worry about ancillary stuff. So that's the technology I'm talking about. And the GSEs gave us that opportunity to rethink the problem, to rethink what we wanted to do. And they did that for everybody, right? They said, your bread and butter 1004 form software, gone. Now you can continue building it or expanding it or whatever, or start completely over. And we said, let's start completely over. Let's rethink what we can do and what do we want. If we were appraisers in 2030, what do we want our experience to be like? And we said, this is what we want it to be. And how do we get there? Starts here and we build. But it starts with getting rid of all the busybody work.
Okay, busybody work. Now, the morning we recorded this, I was on the phone with an appraiser who was hopping up and down mad, not at me, just mad, saying, "Why do I have to give up my tape measure? Why do I have to give up my clipboard?" I said, I can go in the house and I can write down what's in the kitchen. I can write down what's on the floor. I can slap a tape upside the house." And he says, "I'm not going to go buy an iPhone. I'm not going to go buy a Apple Pro with the LiDAR and the blah, 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 and the blah, 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 because that's just not fair. I can get along with my clipboard." Well, okay. Um, we could all get along with typewriters too, but that's not where the technology is. So what this appraiser was apparently saying is, I want to continue to do the busy work. I want to continue to waste my time doing what I could pay some intelligent 15-year-old to do for $15 an hour, even though I should be able to bill out at well over $100 an hour. But I'm not going to. I'm gonna stick to my clipboard and my legal pad and my fiberglass tape measure. All right. From obviously, this, we don't want to get into the good versus bad argument, because there is, in that context, there is no good or bad. There is merely efficient or inefficient. So if the appraiser wants to remain inefficient, the appraiser has that right. But what you're saying is, if the appraiser is willing to take advantage of the technology that is literally available today, um, the time and the busy work isn't totally eliminated, but the time in the busy work is significantly eliminated.
Yeah,
Therefore, even if fees go down, even if the UAD 3.6 reporting platform requires more information, if the appraiser is going to be willing to take advantage of the technology behind those, that there will be a net savings of time Obviously, that's going to be typically, there are going to be times when that doesn't happen, but typically there's going to be a net savings of time. Thus, the appraiser is going to be able to do more work per week, or more appraisals per day, or however you want to handle it, uh, without working significantly harder. Now, is that where all this is going, or have I completely misinterpreted the issue?
No, I think you're right on, Tim. Let me go back to the inspection to that appraiser on wanting to use a clipboard. Um, so for measuring the outside of the house, if they want to keep using their tape measure, that's fine. They're probably really fast at it, and that's okay. That's okay. Where the issue comes into play is when they start writing down the things that are of value inside the home and the repairs and the disaster mitigation features of the home and the amenities and things like that. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Um, what the GSEs have done is they said, we know that that house has all these things in it, potentially. And when you say that it has some amenity, we want you to identify it using our enumerated list. And so the appraiser might write it down on their clipboard, there's a patio or there's a whatever, right? But when he gets back to the office, he now has to associate his clipboard writings with what the GSEs want specifically in their enumerated list. And so that's why it's much easier to go out into the field with an iPad or an iPhone that already has these lists of features in it, and the appraiser just selects those features. Because once they select a certain feature, there's going to be another question, and then another question that the GSEs want. And that appraiser needs to answer those things, either in the field or in the office. And if they don't answer all those things, that report doesn't comply and it won't get sent. And so there's just there's a matter of efficiency that is in the data collection process. Now, in fairness to that appraiser, especially if they have a lot of experience, when they walk into that home, they know what is of value and what is not, and they can jot it down. And then when they come back to their 1004, they write about it and they're good to go. The world has changed. The GSEs don't want a lot of writing anymore. They want specifics. So they want to know, do you have a disaster mitigation a feature? What is it? What year was it? And these kinds of things. And the only way to know what to do out there is to actually have this tree of answers that you can enter, that you can put the answers into very quickly and easily. And so that's why I don't think it's going to happen this year, but by the first half of 2027, I think every appraiser doing UAD is going to have that kind of technology out there. It takes a while to adopt this technology, and they're fighting it. They're fighting it like crazy right now, but it's going to become standard because of the way the questions are asked. And it's just going to be much, much easier to have this, probably an iPad, because the more you can see, the more you can do, the faster you can do it. And you'll have that out in the field, and you'll answer all these questions. You'll note all these questions. You'll put down the answers, and you're good to go. The other thing too is that with computer vision now, when you take a picture, it's going to come back and say, did you see this? Did you see this repair? Or I'm seeing this, or I'm seeing that. And now that can go into these answers as well. And it even saves you more time. So this person might not like what's happening now, but they will eventually love the technology that's coming.
Technology that's coming. Okay. Let's consider that in the light of education. Now, you spend a lot of time talking to appraisers in videos like this one, in other venues, in attending the national conferences, etc. So you are to some extent involved in appraisal education. Let's get right down to the boots on the ground appraiser education. The educational paradigm, the educational model is still to teach appraisers to fill out forms. It's not to teach appraisers to think. It's to teach appraisers to fill out forms and get them out of the office relatively efficiently. The question I raise is that educational paradigm, is that educational model going to serve the appraiser who must understand the technology, who is familiar with the technology, who can use the technology that is now in place and very soon is going to become the norm?
So the technology that's first coming out is meant to be efficiency technology, and people need to learn how to use it. It's kind of like I don't know if this is a good analogy, but learn how to drive a car. You need to know where the key is and where the radio knob is and things like that. And so you have to learn those things. But then once you learn those things and you're not spending your time figuring all that stuff out or collecting data the old way or whatever, now you have time to do the analysis the right way, to cover all the bases. And I think that's the next level of education is how do you produce a really high quality appraisal in a short amount of time? And a lot of people don't think, oh, if you're gonna do it in a short amount of time, the quality is going to go out the window. That's wrong. Maybe in the old way, that's the way it was. With new technology, I think you can do things in a short amount of time, very, very high quality. And that's where you want to be, because I believe that our competition is the waivers with PDRs, and it's the alternative valuations. And why are they popular, or why are they even around? It's because they're quicker, and they don't give as much, right? They're not as good, but they're quicker. So if the appraiser can be just as fast as a inspection with a PDR and waiver, or as an alternative inspection, valuation, whatever, if they can be just as fast as those products, but produce as quality appraisal, then the lender goes with the quality appraisal. And the borrower wants the quality appraisal, right? They don't, the time will not be the differentiator anymore. So it's a way to compete with these other products, but it has to be done quickly, and it has to be done with high quality. And the technology, I think, can get them there.
Okay. Let's talk about the cookie cutter appraisal. Now, you live in Central California. There are a lot of places in all of California that have got subdivisions with thousands of houses. And they're generally 3 or 4 different floor plans, and 300 of them sell every year. So, in a cookie cutter neighborhood like that, how important is the appraiser and the standard appraisal going to be as of January 2nd, 2027?
So, so this is okay. So this is our vision, okay? And our vision is that cookie cutter property, right? The appraiser walks in, looks around, does the inspection, data collection, starts analyzing the property right there, says, do you mind if I sit at the kitchen table and do a little bit of work? No problem. An hour later, 30 minutes later, something like that, they come back and they say, here's your value. And they walk out the door and they're done. And that's what you do with a cookie cutter property. It's easier to do, it's faster to do, and the appraiser does it. Versus home inspector with PDR, eval with whatever, It's the appraiser doing the work. They continue to 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 get a hold of, they own the valuation market. And if they can do it quickly with all this technology, I'm talking computer vision, I'm talking AI, these kinds of things that can produce a quality valuation in a very short amount of time, the more cookie cutter that property is, probably the easier it is to do. But they should be able to walk in 2 hours later, walk out and be done and hand it over to the homeowner, or if it's estate planning or if it's for refinance or whatever, it's like, I'm sending it to the lender right now.
Let's look at the other side of the question. You've got a 25,000 square foot custom design, custom built, custom finished house off the grid on 400 acres in Montana. Um, and that sounds lovely. And we're obviously talking about an incredibly unique
Yeah.
property.
Yes.
Given its cost, it's probably extremely well maintained. And it was designed for one person who was probably going to live there 3 months a year during the summer. So, how is technology going to help that appraiser appraise that particular property?
It's almost the same way, Tim. Uh, we have actually some experience in all of that. Working with a company called Agware, where they had one-offs kind of thing. And you know, anyway, a lot of history there. But it turns out that that's where the appraiser's expertise really gets to shine. And as long as they can focus on the ways of doing paired analysis or whatever techniques they need to use to value a property, they can focus on that and not spend their time on, okay, now I got to write this report and now I got to do this and the technology brings it all together, can massage it, can produce a dashboard for them. They can focus on the things that they feel are important or valuable in that property. And like I said, do a quality or create a quality valuation in a relatively short amount of time. Not 2 hours, but also not 3 weeks.
Let's take a look at the concept of going up before the state. Now, this is not something you typically deal with. So basically, I'm asking you a speculative question, and your answer will be speculative. It is, however, something I deal with all the time. So we're talking January 2nd, 2027. The appraiser does the report. It apparently gets through all the filters, and for some reason, it gets sent to the state. And the state gets back with the appraiser and says, okay, we need to know how you got to your $750,000. Is technology going to help the appraiser? And excuse me, let me rephrase. Is the technology we're talking about going to help the appraiser defend him or herself in front of the state board? Or is it going to be so incomprehensible
Yeah.
that boards may throw up their hands not knowing what to do?
Yeah. So Tim, I can't speak for the other software providers, but in our case, it's something that we took into consideration from the very beginning. And so in our process, the appraiser has to methodically go through all the steps of that appraisal process. And they need to say or indicate, I did this, I did not do this for whatever reason. I did this one, I did this one, I looked at this, I did this. We have about 70 steps in the process. Picture a train, and you have to go to each car in the train, and you need to say, yeah, I had lunch here, and I had a drink over here, and I just walked through this one. But you go through all of them. And so when that appraiser needs to go to the state, for instance, we can produce a PDF book for that appraiser to show the regulators exactly what they did in the process. And that's by design.
So the appraiser can say, Jeff, help, I'm up before the state. And you can produce basically a chronological report saying, here's what the appraiser did, and therefore here's what the appraiser didn't do.
With
Uh,
pictures.
okay, with pictures. All right. Now, from a, bless you, from a standpoint of looking at that, looking at what you can do for the state, is that going to give the appraiser any reason to be less competent, less independent, less impartial, less objective than they are now?
I hope so. I hope so. The idea is that I don't want to overuse the phrase data driven, but the result is data driven, right? I mean, they definitely have the ability to have an opinion and to exercise that opinion, but the data is going to show something, and that's a support that they need for the valuation. So if they've collected the right data, and right is subjective, of course. If they filtered all the comps, if they filtered the right the correct listings, um, they will come up with a good valuation, and I think they'll be fine. It because the data is what's going to support the valuation.
Yeah, that is going to support the valuation. Okay. Jeff, we're recording this at the first part of April of 2026. Are you going to be attending any of the national conventions this year? And if so, which ones?
I hope to be at all of them. So we're looking at ACTS. We're looking at maybe being with the e-learning group up in Chicago. Definitely the Val Expo, the Appraisal Summit conference. We're looking to be at all of them this year.
Okay. And if you're standing in a buffet line and somebody walks up to you and says, Jeff, I have a question, will you send them off to one of 47 assistants who will possibly make an appointment with you? Or will you stop and sit down with that appraiser and answer the question?
Tim, what you're asking is actually one of the reasons I've stayed in business for 39 years. And that's because I really enjoy and I enjoy talking to appraisers, but I've met so many enjoyable people by just talking to them. And so I enjoy just, stepping out of the line and let's have a conversation about this and let's see what we can do about what your issue is or whatever. It's one of the reasons I've stayed in business. I just find it very enjoyable to do that.
And that's how you and I met. I don't remember if you called me out or I called you out, but we just met standing in a line. And you were very gentlemanly, very accommodating, even though you were obviously hungry. But you answered my questions. And so I asked that question just so I could say, Jeff is extremely approachable and
Yeah.
will answer your questions. Jeff, if anyone needed to get in touch with you, well, what is your email address?
It's real simple. It's Jeff, Jeff, at bradfordsoftware.com.
Jeff at bradfordsoftware.com. Okay, we'll have that on the screens if anybody wants to write it down. So, Jeff, as we wrap up, anything else you would like to add? Any other predictions you'd like to make? Any other oxen you'd like to gore?
I just want to say that a lot of people have consternation over what the GSEs did, and we do too. But they gave the whole industry an opportunity to rethink the future, and we should all thank them for that.
Rethinking the future. It's a great title, possibly for a presentation at one of the national conventions. Jeff, again, I want to thank you. Thank you for being available. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for what you have contributed to the industry. It's your you show what a leader should do, and I personally appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, folks, attend one of the conventions, get to know Jeff. You'll find it very rewarding, and hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you need to get in touch with me, my email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. So until next time, thank you. We appreciate it. Bye bye, everybody.